everybody, my name is Ryan and I am the Laser Noob. So today we are not going to be working with our lasers, but we are going to be putting in an exhaust system in the man can, which will make it a lot easier for me to use the laser in here during the summer, the winter, anytime. And I can actually stay back here. So I have a 40-foot shipping container. It's the High Cube. It's 9.5 foot tall, 40 foot long, 8 foot wide. So it gets really hot in here in the summer, really cold in the winter because it's not insulated, it's not air conditioned. And I'm set up all the way in the back. That's where my bench is, that's where my computers are, my lasers are, all that stuff is all in the very back. So up until this point, what I have done is I have had fans circulating air and then circulating air out, just like box fans and the big round fans from Home Depot. But it still gets pretty smoky in here sometimes, and I just can't stay in here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be taking this 8-inch fan by Diversitech. This is just a duct fan. It runs on 115 volts. And we're going to be using some snap lock metal pipe. You can get this at Home Depot. We're going to use a couple of 8-inch and 6-inch adjustable 90s. You can make these straight or a 90 or a 45. One 8-inch round damper. So we don't get it, when we're not using it, we can shut that damper off and we don't get any backdraft of air coming back in. We need a Y. This is a metal Y, so it's 8-inch by 6-inch by 6-inch. I got 2 lasers running sometimes, so I'm gonna have one drop coming over one laser to exhaust, another drop coming over the laser next to it for an exhaust. And then to hang it all, we got some metal plumber strap. Depending on what part of the country you're from, they call this perforated strap, metal hanging strap, but this is just plain old plumber strap. We're going to take that, we're going to put that all together with some sheet metal screws and some duct tape. We're going to get it hung up and we're going to get it exhausted out to the front of the man can, and you guys are going to come along with me while I do it. So if you need to do something like this, you know how to do it. So with that, let's get to work. All right, one of the very first things I want to show you guys when you are working with metal, this is all these edges are all sharp. Even though they may not seem it, they're very sharp. I've been working with metal my whole life. I still cut myself, even though I know all the tricks to not cut myself. I just get in a rush sometimes. So I'm gonna show you guys, I fully suggest that you guys wear gloves when you're doing this, all right? Anytime you're working with sheet metal, wear some gloves. Even if they're just cheap cloth gloves, it's gonna save you from getting cuts on your fingertips. Trust me, those suck, all right? But if you're a dude, I know most of you are gonna be like, I don't need no stinking gloves. I'm gonna show you guys how to make turns in this adjustable 90 right here, okay? So all these edges in here, they can be real sharp, and when you turn, you might have a grip on one and not the other, and you slide your finger across that and you're gonna cut yourself wide open. So what I like to do is, if I'm just turning a single piece like this, you know, I'm gonna come in, I'm just gonna go in and grab, and I can turn, all right? Now, if I need to turn 2 pieces, what I'll do is I'll come in, my fingers are gonna go past that ring right there, okay, nice and flat, I'm holding on tight, my thumb's over here all the way across, and I can turn both of those at the same time, okay? If you're only trying to turn one, but 2 of them are turning like this, just hold on to it, just like that, and turn your one piece. A lot of times they'll turn one direction, but they have a hard time turning the other direction. See what I mean? So you guys just have to mess with that. Sometimes you got to put it between your legs and hold on to it and turn it, but that's how you make your turns in an adjustable 90. And before we completely enclose everything and add more duct onto here, we will be sealing this inside with mastic. They call it duck butter, they call it Pookie, all kinds of stuff. But if you go to Home Depot and get it, or somewhere else to get it, just ask for a bucket of mastic, okay? So with that, let's go ahead and add our first piece of 8" on here, get it screwed in, and I'll show you guys what screws to use, what screws not to use. All right, so with our Y, here's one of the things I'm gonna look, this is not a major deal if you don't do it this way, but this is the proper way to do this. Our airflow is going this way, okay? So it's getting sucked up from the two 6" vents, or to taps, and then it's coming out this way. Now, the Ys already come with this end crimped, which is fine, it's no big deal, but after that, I want the crimps to actually point in the direction of the airflow. So I don't want to put a crimped pipe in this way. I want to crimp my Y and then put it on a piece of pipe. So I'm just going to grab a set of crimpers. If you guys don't have crimpers or can't afford crimpers, if you have a pair of needle nose, you can pretty much stick a pair of needle nose on here and just twist it a little bit, and it takes longer, but I'm just going to crimp it with my crimpers. I'm going to go all the way around it. And basically all I'm doing is, by crimping this, I'm shrinking this metal just enough that it will fit inside that 8" piece that's uncrimped that I'm gonna put on here. So it knocks it down to, like, 7 3/4, 7 7/8, something like that. But all it's doing is just making it slightly smaller. That's all that crimp is for. So now I've got that end is crimped. Then we're going to take our first piece of snap lock pipe. This stuff, this is real easy to put together, guys. All you got to do is make sure that your two sides, your left and your right here at this seam are even. You're going to slide the one into the other, hold it. Sometimes it can be tricky. You got to keep holding it. I hold on to it back here with my feet just to keep it round. We're going to work it all the way to the end. So now it's all together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to push it together just to make sure that one was out, just to make sure it's all in. Okay. So this is our first piece of pipe. On this one, I'm going to put the seam up like this. And then our Y is going to go into that. And I might need to crimp this a little bit more. There we go. Now I'll grab this end, shake it up and down as I'm pushing in, just to make sure. Okay, so now it doesn't look like it's all the way in, but once we get the screws on there, it's gonna hold it in. But we want that just like that, okay? And if it'll pop out, that's all right. We're gonna go get our screws, we're gonna screw it, okay? Now, this is where I tell you guys what screws to and what screws not to use. Grab my 12-volt Milwaukee. There are two different kinds of sheet metal screws that you guys are gonna find. One is a zip tip. Okay, it's pointy. That's what we're going to be using today. The other is a self-drilling or self-tapping tip. It's like it's got just a little drill bit on the end of it, okay? So the reason we're going to use, these are for thicker metal. This sheet metal here is 30 gauge. We're going to use this thin one. It'll real quickly go through the top piece and then into the next piece. and screw them together. A lot of times, this self-tapper here, it'll go through the first one, but then it'll push the second one down and it won't want to go through it because the metal's flimsy. So anyway, this is what we're going to use. Push that back in. Gotta hold it. So the first one I'm gonna get, we're only gonna need 3. Put one right there. Now I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna put one right here. And then I just need one more. Once you get up to doing something like 12-inch, then you'll want to put 4 screws in. But the 8-inch, 3 and below, 9-inch below, 3 screws is fine. That's now in there, it's not going to come out. So what we'll do with that is we're going to go ahead and take a piece of duct tape and we're going to wrap that seam and make that seam airtight. And then we'll get this actually put up in place above the laser and then we can go from there. All right, so now this is where our perforated strap comes in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out enough. Usually what I can do is I can take this, I can wrap it around that 8-inch pipe or 9-inch pipe or whatever, so I know how much I need with a little bit of extra. And then I just take my 10 snips. And we just cut it. Now you notice I am now wearing my gloves because this next step, when we go to drill this in, so this is all welded in. I put angle steel up here and welded this in for a shelf. So what I'm gonna do on the back side of that pipe, I'm actually gonna use one of those self-drilling bits, one of those self-drilling screws. Basically all that is a drill bit on the end of a screw. So when I go to screw into that steel, number one, it's gonna, just like drilling into any metal, it's gonna kick shavings out. So we wanna make sure that we've got eye protection on, number one. Number two, when this goes to tighten up, this metal is sandwiched in between the screw and the steel angle. Once that gets tight, it tends to want to whip, okay? So that's why I'm wearing my gloves. I'm gonna hold on to that nice and tight. So we're gonna put a couple of these up, just prep, then we'll put our pipe in there and screw the other side down. So what I'm going to do here, for right now, I'm going to get this screwed in, but I'm not going to screw it in. I'm going to have a little slack in that strap, basically so I can easily get to it, turn it to get the other pieces screwed in as I go. So see, I still have a little bit of play. I can move it. If you screw it in real tight at first, then you can't do any of that. Now, because this is just wood, all I've done here is just put in just regular sheetrock screws for now. and that's gonna, so now I can get that, I can still turn it, I can get to my other piece, put it on, get it screwed, get it taped, and I can turn that thing while I'm doing all of it. Then once I'm all done, I'll come back, I'll tighten those straps up. Bob's your uncle. Okay, so here's where our 8-inch elbows are gonna come into play. So I want my pipe for my exhaust to come out to the end of my shelving system, and then we're gonna go up to the roof and 90 over again and go all the way out to the end of the man can. So what I've got to do is this elbow is going to go just like this. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this from the back end. The pipe is crimped right here, okay? So I got a crimp, and then I've got a bead, which is where the pipe sticks up. It's almost just like a bump that goes all the way around it. We call it a bead. So I'm going to measure to the back of that crimp out here, and I'm going to get that measurement, and we're looking at 35 3/4 inches. So 35 3/4, I'm just gonna call it 36. I'm gonna cut a piece of 8-inch snap lock, 36 inches. It's already crimped on one end, so I'm gonna measure it from the very end. I'm just gonna turn it upside down, measure 2 foot. That 2 foot is what I'm gonna actually cut off of that 60-inch piece, because they come in 5-foot sections. We'll put that together, put it up here, get our elbow on. We'll measure the next piece, get the elbow on that one, and then we'll start back with our 5-foot pieces. Okay, so we've got our 5 foot of 8-inch snap lock. So here's how we're gonna mark this out and get it cut. This is our crimped end up here. I'm just gonna turn it over. It's easier to measure 24 inches than 36 on these. I'm gonna take my tape measure, and I'm gonna pull it out to 24 inches on the dot, and I'm gonna lock that in place. So you guys can see right at 24 inches. Then I'm going to take a marker, which I just had and have apparently lost. It's the great hunt for the marker. Ha! Wrong pocket. So now what I'll do is I'll take that tape measure, I'm gonna turn it backwards, and you can see here on this particular Milwaukee measure, it's got the numbers on the back side too. So I'm right at 24 inches. I'm just gonna take that. I'm gonna put my marker down at the bottom, and I'm just gonna go all the way around it. So now what we've got is we've got that nice black line going all the way around. That's 24 inches. We're going to cut that, and that gives us our 3-foot piece for the next section that we need. Okay, so I have battery-powered shears that can do this, but I mean, I'm in the industry, I have this for work. I don't expect you guys to go out and buy something like this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go with the old 10 snips, okay? These are offset. These are Craftsman. You can get these at Lowe's or Home Depot. They're relatively inexpensive. I'm a Milwaukee guy, but the Milwaukee ones suck. They don't stay closed and locked when you put them in your bags or anything. So the Craftsman is what I've got right now, but if you go to Home Depot, they have Wiss or something like that. Those are perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my line, and I'm just going to cut along that line. And there's our 3-foot piece. We'll snap it together. Again, remember, we want to make sure at this end, our ends are matched up. Bam, 3-foot piece. So remember, at first when I was putting that first piece of metal on that Y, that 866Y, I talked to you guys about the seam real quick. So what I do is, and I've only seen this happen once, I will take the seam of one, if the seam's on the bottom, the piece for the next piece, the seam's on the top, then the seam's on the bottom, then the seam's on the top. I've seen this happen one time. If you put all the seams together in a row, I'm kind of OCD about stuff like that, and I like everything to be nice and in a line and neat. If one of those seams decides to pop, and they're all in a row, it can actually twist that metal and make the seams on all the other ones pop, and now you just got a bunch of open pipe. So now what I do is, I saw that happen, it didn't happen to me, I just saw it. What I do is I rotate my seam. So always one top, the next piece is bottom, the next piece is top, the next piece is bottom, so on and so forth. So that's what I mentioned, that's what I was talking about when I was mentioning the seam. So I went top, this seam's on bottom right here. So this one, we're gonna go seam on top. We're going to hold that in place right there, and I'm going to get one screw on the top here, and then that'll hold that, and I can get the next two in. We'll turn that a little bit. Turn it back. Now when I strap it up, that'll be all nice. Now we'll get our elbow on there. And that came out just perfect. Turn this, and we'll get our third screw in there. So one thing I'm noticing right here is that when I push this all nice and level up, this one's angled down a little bit. So I'm gonna loosen this top screw and see if we can get that level. Take it out. And that's not gonna allow me to do it. So we'll take this one out. That did it. All right. Now we're level. Obviously our holes aren't gonna match, so we can just make a new hole. That's no big deal because that seam's going to be taped. Beautiful. All right, so this is where our mastic is going to come in. So these are on the back, on the inside. What we're going to do is we're going to take that mastic and we're going to seal all of those rings because we want to make this airtight going out so I don't have any fumes leaking into the man can. Okay. So that's what this is for. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this. This stuff is pretty messy. If you get it on you, it will wash off with water if you get it before it dries. Otherwise, you got to wait until it dries, and then you can just like peel it off. If you have hair where it's at, it will take the hair with it. So yeah, just saying. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of that mastic, and we're just going to go in here. I don't need to adjust this 90. It's right where it's at. You know, I want it exactly at a 90-degree angle. And you can just like lather it in there. It doesn't have to be neat. You're never going to see this, but you want to use enough that you make sure you got a good seal all the way around in there. We'll come back to this side, get it from the other end. So now, all those seams have all been sealed. This thing will not leak any air. So we'll go ahead, we're gonna mastic the one that we have already put on. Then we're gonna put our little piece on this one, put this on that little piece, going up and straight across. And from there, we're gonna get into our 5-foot pieces.
So handsome, oh, you have your way, and it's making me weaken. You and your stardust, walking like that. It's really getting too much, but I can't pull back. Though I try to resist, I can't fight this. And no one makes me feel like you do. And no one try to sleep, but you're deep in my mind. Got a hold of me. When I'm awake, I'm all blind. You and your magic, like infinite power. God knows I tried to resist, but you're pulling me closer. Oh, I gotta stay away, but you won't let me. No one makes me feel like you do, and no one sets my body on fire, and no one gives me shivers like you. Oh, no one does it better. And no one makes me feel like you do, and no one sets my body on fire, and no one gives me shivers like you. Oh, no one does it better. Oh, no one does it
Okay, so my original thought was to have the fan down there at the end. I started rethinking. So I'm gonna actually put the fan in the middle. So halfway between where I'm pulling my exhaust and halfway between where I'm actually pushing it. So, and I just think that'll work better. So what I'm gonna do is, now that I've already put this tape on this, I'm gonna go ahead and take this tape off, take these screws out, and take this piece that I cut out right here, and I'm going to put the fan right there at that elbow. So I'm pulling through this elbow and pushing through that elbow instead of trying to push or pull through both of them. So we're going to split that. So I'm going to take this piece back out. That's where I'm going to mount my fan, and I'll run my electrical to a switch down here, and that's what we're going to do with that. right, so we've only got a couple of things left to do on the whole system. So at the end of the system is where I'm going to put the damper, and after that I'm going to put like 5 foot of flex on there, and I'm going to attach it to the door. That way when I open up the door to the man can, what will happen is it'll exhaust out, and out that way I've still got fans in front of the door which will blow some fresh air in. The fan will not only exhaust the fumes and the smoke from the laser, but it's also going to help draw that air in, that fresh air in, all the way to the back of the man can, which is going to help keep it a little bit cooler. It's not going to do a whole lot, but it will help. So what we're going to do is, we got our fan here, we got our electrical. This is not, it's just a 115 volt motor. It's not phased or anything. So it doesn't really matter which wire you hook up power and which wire you hook up neutral, as long as your ground is your ground. Okay, I can hook up black and then white, or I can hook up black and white over here. Doesn't matter. So all I got is an appliance cord for right now. Eventually I'm going to get another man can, and it's going to be 2 of them, and they're going to be welded together. This wall right here is all going to be gone. So I don't really want to just weld a bunch of stuff to it that I'm going to end up changing out anyway. So for right now, we're just going to run this fan off of a cord. So I have a, if this is the right size, and it's not. So I got to go get a smaller Romex connector. This is going to take a 3/8. It's actually a 1/2 inch, but if you get them at Home Depot, they say 3/8. So let me go get the right size. All right, so here we go, 3/8. Like I said, 3/8 is what it says. It actually fits a 1/2 inch hole. So what we will do is we will unscrew these a little bit. Onyx, go. Don't you knock my camera over. Go. Good boy. When you have a big dog, sometimes he just moves stuff out of his way instead of going around. All right, we'll get our connector in here. And I want to make sure that that's nice and tight. Take my flathead and tighten it on the inside, that little ring. Now that's nice and tight. I'm going to take my appliance cord. I'm going to pull it through. I'm not going to tighten that down just yet, because what I want to do is I want to make my connections out here where I got all this slack, and then I'll pull it back. So one of the things that I have an issue with when you buy these appliance cords, they're not stripped far enough, and same thing with this fan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip that just a little bit more, give me a little bit more wire. And the ground as well. Now I can take green to green, so this is my ground. A couple of little twists. Get my wire nut on there. Now I'm going to do my neutral. Then my hot. This is my 120. And this fan does not take very much power. So like I said, it's 8-inch fan. It's 420 CFMs. But I mean, it's the max watts is using 49. So it's like a light bulb, and it's only drawing less than an amp. So 0.97 amps on this fan. So it does not use a whole lot of power. We'll put our cover back on there. All right, so we're almost done with our exhaust system. The last thing we got to do is, I actually had a manual damper, and I was just going to drill a hole on the bottom, a hole on the top, where I could just manually open it or close it, but down there where I didn't have to get on a ladder. Seeing as how sometimes I can't even remember to turn my air assist on because I'm old, I'm forgetful, I decided to go a different route. So what I did is I got this, it's a damper and it's got some real light springs in it. So we'll pull this out. These are very common for bathroom exhausts in humid places. So basically, here's our damper, and when the air blows, it opens the damper and lets the air out, and when I turn the fan off, it springs shut. Now, the problem with this is it needs to be either mounted vertically like this or inline upflow, which means the air is going up to push the dampers open, okay, and it'll close when it shuts off. If you're trying to put it down line and want to hang it upside down, well, the springs aren't that strong, and it just opens. Okay, so it's either got to be mounted with these where the vanes where they open up, where the dampers open up, or vertically like this where it blows it open and they can spring close. Even like a little bit, it's still, see, it's still very sloppy. So it's got to be pretty level if you're going to put it like this, like I am. So basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on here. Now I will tell you guys, sometimes when you get this sheet metal like this snap lock, if you get it from Home Depot or wherever you get it, sometimes the machines that they use to do the crimp on here to make it smaller so you can put the next piece on doesn't do very well. So you might need to take, like I said, some needle nose, put it on there, twist it, go a couple inches, put them on, twist it, make it just a little bit smaller. And that's only if you can't afford or have access to the crimpers that I showed you guys earlier. So that's now on there. That's good. I'm not going to screw this on. At this point in time, my whole plan is I'm going to get another one of these shipping containers and I'm going to have it next to this one. But I'm not sure which side I'm going to put it on yet, if I'm going to put it on the east side or the west side. So I'm not going to make this part permanent because I may end up switching this whole thing. So all I have to do right now is it's 420 CFMs. I'm going to put some duct tape on that. It's going to hold it on there just fine. And we'll be good to go. So I'm going to duct tape that. And then after that, the only thing left that we have to do is put on the final piece. Now the final piece needs to be flexible for me, for my situation. So what I'm going to do is the front door of this shipping container, I just open up one door. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to have that flexibility so I can open that door and turn it all the way around so the door is actually touching this side of the can, or the man can. And it'll exhaust all that stuff out that way. And I can still have a fan in here until I figure out what I want to do for AC, blowing air in without bringing those fumes back into the house. No windows or doors other than just the main doors on the front of this thing that came with it. So my original thought for that was I'm going to put an 8-inch hole in that door and I'm just going to do a flappered louver on that and solve the issue. But again, I'm going to end up putting a door in this thing to get in other than that because it's a pain in the butt. So I'm not sure. So until then, I don't want to put a bunch of holes in my shipping container that later on I got to patch and they're going to look like crap. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I've taken some 8-inch flex, some air conditioning heating flex, and all I did is I took the outer liner and the insulation off of it, which leaves just the inner liner. So if you have flex up in your attic, your air conditioning and stuff, this is the liner that's inside of it, all right? And this is the 8-inch. So all I want to do is I have quite a bit of this. I'm going to tape one end on here, and then I'm going to go outside, okay? and I'm going to strap it up, and I'm going to actually put a couple of screws in one of the inside cross members of that door that don't go external. But I want that door to be completely open so I can stretch this thing out from here to around with a little bit of slack. And then when I close it, you know, that slack will come back. But I don't want the wind, when the wind blows, to blow that door open and rip this thing apart if it's too taut. So that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to tape this up. We're going to grab some tape. I'm going to tape that. We're going to add this. We're going to tape that up and screw it onto the door with some straps. And then we're going to turn this thing on and we're going to test that door and see how everything works. All right, so it is all done, 100% complete, and it is turned on. We're outside right now. You can't even hear this thing from the outside. So let's take a look and see how it's working. That's our exhaust. It comes in. It goes around. Now, when you come in, you can hear it a little bit, but again, this is uninsulated metal. It's, you know, 420 CFMs, but it's still not extremely loud. All the way down. There's our fan. And there's our Y. And it comes down. I have one set up here. Right now I'm set up for doing some acrylic stuff. This is where my D1 10 watt is normally at. And then this is where the other laser normally sits. I have an exhaust for that. I'll extend that down if needed. But right now, if you guys can hear, so this is where I work. I'm in the man can. Here's both my computers, my monitors. This is my workstation, and as you can tell, the fan's running and it's not even overly loud. So this setup's going to work real good. I've actually had my wife in here. We've done some tests with the laser and burning some stuff, and I mean the thing works great. I mean, if you had an enclosure, which I don't like, I don't want an enclosure. But if you had an enclosure, there's not one fume that thing puts out that would ever escape at 420 CFM. So remember, guys, this is my setup. This is what's going to work for me. This is what I wanted. You guys might have a smaller space. You don't need as much CFM exhaust. One of the other reasons I needed the 420 CFM is because I'm going almost 40 feet all the way out to the front of the man can. So the longer the run, you know, a 4 CFM fan, or you know, say a 40 CFM fan or a 50 like a normal bathroom fan is not going to push much air out, you know, when you start getting 40, 50 feet. I mean, imagine blowing into a 200-foot straw, you know. You're not going to get much air coming out the other end, you know, you're not pressurizing anything. So this system works for me. If you have a smaller space, you may not need an 8-inch fan. You might need a 6-inch, which is like 320 CFM, or a 5 or a 4, depending on what your needs are. So I encourage you guys, if you have any questions about this, or you have any sizing questions about the size of your workspace and how many CFMs you need, go ahead and put it down in the comments below. I'll get back to you. Guys, this is what I do for a living, is air conditioning and ventilation. So ask me any questions you guys want. I'll get back to you and make sure that I get you every answer or every question you have answered. In the meantime, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and we'll see you guys in the next video.